Hand whistling is very similar to blowing across the top of a bottle and getting a pitch that way. With your hands, what you're doing basically is you're creating a chamber on the inside, and there's going to be a hole at the front between your thumbs that's going to allow the air to go in and come back out. So to demonstrate this, I have a trumpet mute, and this works the same way. Here's your chamber, it's this hollow area, and with the one hole in the top, you blow across and it makes a pitch. So with your hands, you're doing that same thing. You're creating an airtight seal with a chamber on the inside, hollow space, and then a little hole between your thumbs, and when you blow into it, the air goes in and comes back out, and that creates the whistle. So there are two ways that you can do this. One, and this is probably the easier way, is to cup your hands. So to do this, you're going to start with your left hand. This is the way I like to do it. You're going to start with your left hand, and it's going to be curved like this. And you're going to take your right hand, and still with all fingers pressed together, you're going to put it through. You're going to put your thumbs together first, and then you're going to wrap your fingers around, closing all the gaps. And this might take some adjustments, but basically you just want it to be a nice seal all the way around. And with your thumbs, you're going to bend them like this. And that'll create this little space between your thumbs. And that's where the air will go in and back out. And when you blow, you're going to blow with your lips right on the knuckles, right on the knuckles of your thumb. And you're not going to blow straight. So if you blow straight, nothing's really going to happen. It's going to be more of blowing at an angle, kind of downwards into your hands. Now, if you're not getting any note and it sounds more like this, it's probably because you have a leak somewhere. And this is one of the most common mistakes that I see when people are trying this for the first time, is there are gaps between their fingers, or there's a hole somewhere that's letting the air escape through, besides between the thumbs. The only way it's going to work is if it's pretty much sealed completely. You should be able to pour water in your hands and nothing will leak out. So this is what's going to take some time getting used to, adjusting, trying to find how to create that seal. The other way you can hand whistle is by interlocking your fingers. Now this way usually is a little bit harder for some people. I've found it almost a little easier actually. It certainly lets you do more with the pitch. But you're going to start by having your hands like this, kind of stretched out. And I put my left index finger over my right. And that's how I interlock them, and they're going to go all the way down, creating a nice seal at the top. And then you're just going to close the back and the bottom, and you're going to bring your thumbs together like this. And then with a slight bend as well, similar to same way as it was before. Now you'll notice my left index finger is a lot lower than my others. And that's because there's a gap that's naturally created here between your right thumb and index finger. So that's going to have to go pretty far down just to close that gap and to really seal it. And by doing this and keeping space in the center of your hands, same idea, bend at the thumbs. You're going to put your lips right here on the knuckle, and you're going to blow kind of downward. Now when you're hand whistling, whether it's with cupped hands or interlocked fingers, there's a few things you want to avoid. You want to make sure that you're not covering the hole between your thumbs, because this is crucial to creating the sound. If you're trying to blow and you're getting this, it's likely because you're pressed too firmly against and you're covering that hole right there. that needs to be open on the bottom half so the air can come back out. Similarly to that, if the hole between your thumbs is too closed, so maybe you're not closing it with your face, but maybe it's just too small between your thumbs, you might have to open up your knuckles a little bit, your thumbs, just to create that gap there, because that is crucial to creating the whistle. Now, a tip that I found that works really well for me in creating this seal is on the bottom of the hands with your palms. So you notice when you're looking at your palms, they kind of have an indent. And you have the meaty part that's attached to your thumb. If you put your hands perfectly aligned together, that indent on both of your hands is going to create a small hole naturally on the bottom. And so that will leak, and that is a problem right there. So if I do it like that, where I put them exactly together, and that hole is there on the bottom, everything else can be exactly right, but the whistle won't work because the seal's broken. It's close, you can hear it, but that leak is stopping it from happening. So a good way to counteract this is what I do is I put my palms slightly offset from one another. So for the ways that I do it, my right hand ends up being a little bit further up. So it just makes it easier to close the gap there. And just from that slightly offset on the bottom of my palms, that helps a lot with getting the seal, at least on the bottom. Now, another common problem when people are trying to learn this is that their hands are very tense because they're trying to create that seal with tension, but holding them real tightly. And while that can kind of work, it's actually going to make it more difficult for the whistle to speak. If I do everything else the same, and I'm really tense, the whistle is going to be worse. But if I just relax my hands and focus more on just the placement of them rather than squeezing them together, the whistle's going to speak. Another tip is with the type of air you're using. So the best air for making this noise, this sound, is of a sighing quality. That's the type of air that you need to use when doing this. If you blow too hard, it's not going to speak. If you blow too soft, it's not going to be supported. So here are a couple examples. Now, it's important to remember to be patient and to take plenty of breaks when you're learning, because if you do this for too long, your hands are going to get real tired and real tense, and like I said, that's going to hurt the whistle. It's going to be harder. So it's best to do this kind of throughout the day, little bits, no more than, I'd say, 15 minutes or so, 15-20 minutes spent on it at a time. But the hardest part is just learning to get the whistle. After you can get the sound, the hardest part's over. Now, if you have the whistle and you want to experiment with changing pitch, the way you do that is by changing the size of the chamber. So, going back to the bottle analogy, if you have a water bottle and you blow in it and it's empty, it's going to be a low pitch. But if you fill it up with some water, it's going to be higher. So, when you're hand whistling, the way you change the pitch is by closing your hands to create a smaller chamber. For me, this is a lot easier done by interlocking the fingers, doing it like this. Because this way, I can move just my right hand. And I use my left hand, the fingers on my left hand, to help squeeze my right hand in and out to create a bigger and smaller chamber. And that will change the pitch. You can change the pitch with cupped hands too. It's a little bit harder actually, I find, but it's possible. You're going to move your right hand just in a way that creates a smaller chamber on the inside. Now with interlocked fingers, same idea, but this gives you a lot more room to mess with. So one last step I have is for making cool effects and for playing in the extreme high register. It's called venting, and it's where you slightly open up, you break the seal, but just enough to where the pitch raises and doesn't stop. So you can do this with the cupped hands by just kind of slightly opening and closing the backhand. For me though, I find it works really well with the interlocked fingers by slightly opening the bottom of the hands. And this can create fun effects like this. And all I'm doing is I'm just slightly opening the bottom. Another way you can vent with the interlocked fingers is by opening and closing the index finger, my left index finger, the one that's really far down. Opening up and closing this gap will raise the pitch. And this one is nice for doing dove calls. One other way you can use venting is by both opening up the bottom and kind of squeezing towards the front of your hands at the same time. And by doing this, where you open up the back, but you kind of squeeze towards like these front fingers, and you do it in a way that can raise the pitch a lot more. This took a long time of just messing around with, experimenting, but this way you can get into extreme registers. I hope my video has helped you, and if you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. Thanks.